Takadosh Boker Or, Daf Yomi Masechet Makkot, Daf Yutet Amud Aleph 19A1. We're just going to start on 18b, the last line where it says, Amar Avada Barav Amar Yitzchak, Bikurim. Okay, everyone has it. Bikurim. Me matai mechayvim alehem. From when are you going to be punished when you eat the bikurim? So he says, Mishiru penei abayit. What does that mean? When you go into the Azara. So once you go into the Azara, right, and then you're going to come and you're going to eat it, so you're going to be punished, right? Why? Because that's it. So Keman, who does that go like? Okay, Tana did like this. Tana, the Tana we learned to the right. Bikurim, shemiksatan bachutz miksatan bifim. The part of them were already placed inside the Azara, and part of them were outside of the Azara. So he says, bachutz areum kechulin l'chol divrem. The ones which are outside is still chulin, right? And therefore he comes, which means that they're going to be in one klib. So Rabbi Eliezer holds that eged kli lo shmeged, which means that if you have one utensil, it doesn't combine them together. So if you put half the utensil inside the azara and half the utensil outside, the part which is outside is still considered outside. It's like chulin, and the one which is on the inside is like hekdesh, and for lechol divrehem. And therefore, obviously, only a kohen is allowed to eat it. And if the kohen, if somebody else eats it, he's going to be chayav mita. And also, if you are going to eat it outside of the chumah, you're going to be in trouble. Okay, because once it's already inside, that's it. That's already bikurim. Remember, bikurim, only the kohen eats the bikurim. You bring the first fruits to the Bet HaMikdash, you read the psukim, you put it in front of the mizbeach, and what happens is now the kohen eats it, because the bikurim goes to the kohen. Okay? So, yeah, exactly. Amar Rav Sheshat. Yeah? Amar Rav Sheshat, says Rav Sheshat, bikurim hanacha me'akev bein. Kriya and me'akev bein. You remember we learned this already, I don't know how many times, the machlok between Chachamim and Rabbi Shimon. So he says over here that basically bikurim, the hanacha is me'akev, which means that you have to make sure that you place it in front of the mizbeach. But the kriya of the parasha is not going to be me'akev. Meaning, if you brought it to the mizbeach, but you didn't read the psukim, avarami, avedavi, and all the other things, it's not me'akev. It's still going to be bikurim. But if you didn't place it in front of the mizbeach, it's nothing. So who does that like go like? Right? So he says over here, Rabbi Yosef said three things, the name of three zekenim. Rabbi Ishmael Omer, Yachol Ya'aleh Adam Maaser Sheni Bizman Hazeh, B'Yerushalayim V'Yachelenu. Says, can you bring up Maaser Sheni nowadays in Yerushalayim and eat it? V'dinu, Bechor Taun Avat Makom. The Bechor, you're obligated to bring it into Yerushalayim and to eat it there. Maaser Sheni Taun Avat Makom. So to Maaser Sheni also, Ma Bechor Bifnei Abayit, but the Bechor is only going to be when Bet HaMikdash Kayam. So to Maaser Sheni is only going to be when Bet HaMikdash is going to be Kayam. Ma le Bechor Sheken Taun Matan Damim V'Unim V'Mizbeach. So to the Bechor, right? Why? Because the Bechor, you have to sprinkle the blood on the Mizbeach. And you have to bring the fats. Here, obviously, you don't have Mizbeach. So you can't do that. So the same thing with the Maaser Sheni. So it comes out that even when there's no Bet HaMikdash, maybe you could still bring it up to the Yerushalayim or not. As Bikurim Yochichu, the Bikurim is going to prove it to you. Why? The Bikurim is going to prove it to you. He says because they also have to bring it in front of the in front of the Mizbeach. But you don't have to sprinkle anything on the Mizbeach. You don't have to sprinkle all those things. And still you're going to not eat it unless there's a Bet HaMikdash. So to Maaser Sheni is only when there's going to be a Bet HaMikdash. Meaning nowadays, do you bring Bikurim? No. Do you bring Maaser Sheni? No. Do you bring, right? There's no Bet HaMikdash. So he says, Mal Bikurim Sheken Tonim Anacha. There's 1 second, but Bikurim, you have to place it on the Mizbeach. You don't have to do that by Maaser Sheni. So therefore, how am I learning Maaser Sheni from Bikurim? If Bikurim, you do have to place it in front of the Mizbeach. Maaser Sheni, you don't. Meaning, once I found the stringency by Bikurim, I cannot learn Maaser Sheni from Bikurim. So Talmud Lomar comes to teach you, ואכלת לפני השם אלוקיך, במקום שבכלל שכן שהוא שמם, ואכלת דגן אחד וזדירו שלך וצריך וכל מקום מניך, מקיש. זה קש. אתה יודע מה זה מקיש? Yeah. בדיוק. So he says, מקיש מעשר לבכור. מה בכור אינו אלא לפני הבית, אף מעשר אינו אלא לפני הבית. He says, we're making a kesh, the מעשר to the בכור. Just like the Bechor is only going to be Lifnei Abayit, meaning Bizman Shebeit Mikdash Kayam, so to the Maaser is only going to be Lifnei Abayit. And if there's no Bayit, that's it. So here we made a kesh from Maaser to Bechor. The Bechor, when you have a firstborn, right, you have to bring him to we're talking about an animal, right, not a human being, yeah? So you have to bring him to the Mizbeach, you have to offer him, and then what happens is you sprinkle the blood on the Mizbeach. Nowadays, there's no Mizbeach, so obviously you can't bring a Bechor. So you don't bring the Bechor. Yeah, so he says it's a kesh maaser sheni to the Bechor. Just like the Bechor is only going to be during the time of the Bet HaMikdash Qiyam, so to Maaser is only going to be when, right, Bet HaMikdash is going to be Qiyam. So says the Gemara, what happens is he comes and he says, V'achalta sham, it's a Hekesh. Now, V'imita, now if you're going to tell me that Rabbi Yishmael comes and he holds a Kriyaz Me'akevet, Lifroch, we should also ask, Mala Bikurim, Shekenturim, Kriya V'hanacha. Why do we only mention that you needed to do Hanacha in front of the Mizbeach? You also needed to do Kriya, which you don't have to do by Maser, right? So why didn't we add that in? We only said, you need Hanacha. Well, Hanacha. You also need the Kriya. So Amar Ravashi answers, Nehidi kuva leka, mitzvah mileka. He says, you're right, it's not mehakev, but there's no mitzvah of kriya. For sure there's a mitzvah lekriya. Meaning lechule alma, there's a mitzvah lechatchila likro. Ata tzarich v'anita v'amarta. If Arami over Ravi, you have to read. You have to read psukim. Kriya ze likro psukim. כשאתה מביא ביקורים, אתה חייב לקרוא פסוקים. You have to read certain psukim. So he comes and he says, it's a mitzvah. So lema mitzvah lifroch. So why don't we just bring down the mitzvah and ask the question? So Elam Ravashi says, you're right. Kevan di'ika bikure hager. There's bikurim of the ger. The baile meimar that he has to say, Igati layom l'Hashem kivati l'Haaretz asher shibah l'Hashem v'motenu lo matziyama, he can't say it. So lo psikale. So therefore he doesn't bring it at all. Meaning the ger does not read any psukim when he brings the bikurim. Because since in the middle over there he says, it's not lavotenu. He's a ger. He can't say lavotenu. So because of that, he doesn't say any of the psukim whatsoever. Okay, that's why we didn't bring it down at all. Because of the ger. Okay? So says the Gemara, Velahadar dina, Veteti b'matzad. Says 1 second, when Rabbi Yishmael came and he said, Mala bikurim that they need hanacha, why don't I just answer bechor yochiach, right? That does not need hanacha, right? And it's still not eaten unless it's going to be vifnei abayit. And then teiti b'ma'atzad, then we can make a tzad shaveh. Yeah, that means even though I cannot learn from the bechor by itself, or for the bikurim by itself, right? The maaser sheni is only going to be nowadays, but I can learn from both of them together. Lo re'yizeh k'rizeh, lo re'yizeh k'rizeh. But the tzad shaveh sheben, right? The what? I can learn them together. You understood? One more time. You guys remember what we learned of a tzad shaveh? Tzad shaveh means like this. I cannot compare a maaser sheni to bikurim. The reason why is because bikurim, you have to place hanacha in front of the mizbeach. Maaser sheni, you don't. Hanacha, I have to place it. I have to place it in front of the mizbeach. I cannot learn maaser sheni. Maaser sheni is the second 10% on years. Chazak u'aruch. 1, 2, 4, 5. Thank you. Right? So therefore, right, doctor, you have an incredible student. Yeah? So what happens? Exactly. Go back up. Second row. Yeah? So what happens is that on 1, 2, 4, 5, the second 10%, you have to eat it inside of the walls of Yerushalayim. So there, there's no hanacha by there. Meaning you just bring it inside of the bed of the Yerushalayim, Jerusalem. You eat a shawarma or falafel inside of Jerusalem. That's it. You don't need anything else. You understand? You have your falafel, but that's it. You took your produce. You separated the extra 5%, but you redeemed it on money. You came to Yerushalayim. You ate your good falafel and shawarma and lafa and pita and all your stuff, right? And then what happens? Problem. Hungry, but you don't have to come, right? And you don't have to come. You don't have to come and place it in front of the mizbeach. That is called what? That is called maaser sheni. Does not need hanacha lifnei mizbeach. The maaser sheni, you cannot compare it also to the bechor, right? He comes and he says, right? But what is the tzad shaveh shebahen? The tzad shaveh shebahen is that it's only when there's a bet hamikdash. So to the maaser sheni, it should only be when it's going to be a bet hamikdash. Yeah? So what's going on then? You cannot compare maaser sheni to the bechor because the bechor, you have to sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach. So you need the mizbeach. Maaser sheni, you don't need to sprinkle anything. So therefore, I cannot compare maaser sheni to bechor. I cannot compare maaser sheni to bikurim. But maybe I could compare them to both. That both of them, right, together, right, it's only the time at the Bet HaMikdash. And therefore, I come in each one that I wanted to say, the other one is going to prove me the other way around. Because at the end of the day, the Bechor does not need Hanacha. And at the end of the day, the Bikurim does not need Matan Damim. They don't need to be sprinkled on Mizbeach. So each one has a stringency and leniency. So Maaser Sheni, I'm comparing to both of them together. That's called a Tzad HaShaveh, common denominator. How do you do the math? When I have 1 over 32 and 1 over 24, what I do is I find a common denominator, and then what I do is I put them together. So the same thing, each one on their own, they're not comparable. So I cannot compare Maaser Sheni to Bechor. I cannot compare Maaser Sheni to the Bikurim. But I could put them both together, Bikurim and Bechor, and I could say Maaser Sheni should be like both of them. Which one? No, Maaser, I cannot compare Maaser to Bechor. And I cannot compare Maaser to the Bikurim. But I could compare Maaser to both of them together. One more time. I can't compare Maaser to Bechor because the Bechor needs sprinkling on the Mizbeach. Maaser does not. I cannot compare Maaser to the Bikurim because Bikurim needs Hanacha lifnei Mizbeach. Right? You have to place it before the Mizbeach. And the Maaser Sheni does not. But I compare Maaser Sheni to both of them with the Tzad HaShaveh, a common denominator. That the common denominator between each one is that they both need to be inside the Bet HaMikdash. But what? But it's only when the Bet HaMikdash is Kayam. If there's no Bet HaMikdash, you don't have it. So too, Maaser Sheni should only be when the Bet HaMikdash is Kayam. So answers the Gemara, Mishum Di'ika Lamifrach, Ma letzad HaShaveh shebehen, right? Sheken yesh bahen tzad Mizbeach. It's still not common denominator. You know why? Both of them need something of the Mizbeach. The Bechor needs the sprinkling of the blood in the Mizbeach, and the Bikurim needs the placing in front of the Mizbeach. Maaser Sheni has nothing to do with the Mizbeach. So I cannot put them together and say they both are things, so therefore it's only Bet HaMikdash Kayam. No. The Bikurim and the Bechor are together on their own domain. And the Maaser Sheni has nothing to do with them because you don't need, because they both need a Mizbeach. The Bikurim needs the Mizbeach in order to place in front of the Mizbeach, and the Bechor needs the Mizbeach for the sprinkling of the Mizbeach. Maaser Sheni is a common denominator, but not like the Maaser Sheni. Yerushalayim, nothing to do with Mizbeach. So I cannot compare Maaser Sheni to the rest. So says the Gemara, Umay Kasava. So what does the Bishmael hold? If you're going to tell me that the Bet HaMikdash was Mikudash for now and after the Churban, so therefore, when we're going to say to do with Maaser Sheni, right, that the Makom HaMikdash is still going to be Kadosh, so then it's still Lifnei Hashem Lokecha. So Afilu Bechor Nami, so then even Bechor. And if you're going to tell me Kedusha Dishon Kisha L'Shatav Lo Kisha L'Ati Lavo, so Afilu Bechor Nami Tibai, so then you should also be able to bring the Bechor. So Amar Ravina comes and he says, yeah, Amar Ravina, Leolam Kasava, really Bemet he holds, Kitcha L'Shata Ve'elo Kitcha L'Ati Lavo. That it was Kitcha L'Shata, not for L'Ati Lavo. Ve'hachan here, Bevechor Shenizrak Tamo Kodem Churban HaBayit, Ve'charav HaBayit V'adayim Besaro Kayam. Here we're talking about that the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed in between. Meaning, they brought the Bechor, and before sprinkling the blood, the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed. And now we're making a Hekesh, the Basar, to the Dam. And we say, just like the Damo Bamizbeach, so to Besaro has to be Bamizbeach. Umakish Maaser LeBechor, and we're making a Hekesh Maaser to the Bechor. So therefore, just like there's going to be an Isur B'fnei Atzmon eating the Basar Bechor in Yerushalayim Mizman Hazeh, right? So Lomed Rabbi Shmael from the Braita from Hekesh Maaser Sheni to the Bechor, that just like you're not allowed to eat Bechor in Yerushalayim Mizman Hazeh, even if it doesn't need the Mikdash, so too you're not allowed to eat Maaser Sheni in Yerushalayim Mizman Hazeh, even though it does not need the Bet HaMikdash. Kiddushan in the Kotel, but not the Bet HaMikdash is not that's what we're saying over here. It's not going to be. He says here, Lefi Maskanat Braita, it comes out that it's mashma that the Safek of Yishmael to do with Kiddushat Yerushalayim is bemet. It's not betela bizman hazeh. And Mikaradin, you could eat Bechor Maaser Sheni even after the Churban, but we have a special limud from the dam of the Bechor to the Basar, and the Basar to Maaser Sheni, that we do not eat it after the Churban. It's especially limud. I mean, technically speaking, you're right. We still have a Kiddusha there, even in the Bet HaMikdash, right? And that's why you're not allowed to go to Arabait. Because if you're going to tell me there's no Kiddusha, why can't they go up to Arabait? No, there is still a Kiddusha. There's something there. Which one? So ask the Gemara, V'chi davar alamed be'akesh. Ozerum lamed be'akesh? This is something interesting. Can you make a Hekesh twice? Why? He says like this. He says, here the Yisud of the Echila be'bechor, you learn it from the Hekesh, from the blood. And then again, the Besar of the Bechor, you're learning a Hekesh to Maaser Sheni, that it's not eaten bizman hazeh. So how do you do that? So to me, זה כאילו copycat from a copycat. בדרך כלל יש לך את האוריגינלי, כן? את האוריגינלי, ואז ממילא יש לך צילום. אבל זה כאילו צילום על צילום, מה זה? So answers the Gemara, Masar dagan, which is basically going to be Masar Sheni, is chulin. And since it's chulin, you don't have the suit of learning the Vada Lemem Bekesh and Chozer Lemem Bekesh. So therefore you could still learn it. Yutet Amubet, 19b. Hani Chalamandamar, this is good according to the Mandamar Batalamed is Lina that we go after the Lamed. But according to the Mandamar Milamed Azina that we go after the Milamed, the one that's teaching, what are you going to answer? So answers the Gemara, Damu Basar Chalamiltei. Salam Shos. Dam Basar, Zoto Dovar. Blood and the flesh, right? The flesh, the meat, the animal, Zoto Dovar. It's the same thing. So it's not considered a kesh to another kesh. Meaning, we said you don't eat from the bechor, from the dam, and then you don't eat the maaser sheni from the meat of the bechor. So therefore, we ask that you're learning basar from dam, and then you're learning the maaser sheni from the basar. But the basar was learned from the dam. He says no, it's zoto davar. Dam and basar is zoto davar. So since it's the same thing, you're only doing one kesh. It's not a kesh from another kesh. Okay. Next, 2 dots. Yeah, everybody has it. 2 dots on Yutet Umvet. Three lines down. Yeah, Shalosh Shurom Milmala. Koche Kadashim. Chutz Klalim. Tanina Chadazim. Now we already learned it once. Masechet Vegdesh Shalonif 2. We learned the Masechet, right, which was not redeemed, right? And obviously, if you're going to eat it outside of the walls of Shalom, you're going to be in trouble. Ta'amar Rabbi Yosef bar Hanina. Seifa b'Masechet tahor v'gavra tahor. V'ka'achil chutz lechomah. The reisha b'Masechet tameh. The Gavra Tameh, the Ka'achile Birushalayim. He comes and he says like this. The Seifa, which is the end of the Mishnah, is talking about Maaser Sheni Tahor and Gavra Tahor. So everyone's Tahor. Also the Maaser Sheni and also the Adam. Right? The Ka'achil Chutz Lachomah, he's just eating it outside the walls of Yerushalayim. The Reisha is talking about Maaser Sheni Tameh and a Gavra is also Tameh. Right? Which means either or, meaning Maaser Sheni Tameh ve'Adam Tahor or Gavra Tameh and the Maaser Sheni is Tahor. The Ka'achile B'Yerushalayim is eating it inside of Yerushalayim. So therefore, that's why you're going to be Chayav Malkut on the Maaser Sheni and Tuman Yerushalayim, which is fitting to eat it, whether he's eating it Tameh or the Maaser Sheni is Tameh. Meaning either one is Tameh, he's going to be punished. Umelala the Mechayev ala Mishum Tumah. So how do we know you're not allowed to eat it Tameh? Meaning Maaser Sheni, where do we say you're not allowed to eat it Tameh? The Maaser Sheni could be your lafa. Why does that have to be Taor? I understand Truma. Okay, Truma has to be Taor. Korbanot has to be Taor. Right? Why does this Maaser Sheni have to be Taor? So he says the Tanya was learned on a Braita. Rabbi Shimon Omer, lo biyarti mimenu b'tameh, ben shani tameh vehu taor, or ben shani taor vehu tameh, veheichal muzhar al achila, enu yodea. I don't know. Meaning that we're learning over here that you're not supposed to eat the maaser sheni when it became tameh. Why? Whether I'm tameh and the maaser sheni is taor, or I'm tahor and the maaser sheni is tameh. Okay, so he says tumat aguf be'ed yaktiv. It's written mefurash. Nefesh shetiga v'tameh ad ha'arev. Don't eat the kodashim. So therefore, you shouldn't eat maaser sheni. Ela, but rather tumat atzmo minayin. You're right. Maaser sheni itself not becoming tameh. We learned it. What about you yourself that you cannot be tameh eating maaser sheni? Meaning, if you're tameh, you're not allowed to eat to truma. I understand. If you're tameh, you're not allowed to eat kodshim. I understand. But you're tameh, you're not allowed to eat maaser sheni. Why not? So he says, the fact that it says bisharecha, we're learning that it's going to be mekasher between the din of bechor balmum, and maaser sheni. And therefore, it's the same halacha, just like the bechor balmum. He comes and he says, you have to be tahor, and you cannot be tameh. So too, right, maaser sheni, you have to be tahor, and not tameh. Do you know that it says the word yachdav? So what does that mean? You could be eating a tamena tahor in the same plate of basar bechor balmum, and we're not going to worry about tumah. Which means you're allowed to be. It's allowed for a tameh person to eat basar bechor, right? Even though he himself is tameh, and it's mutar for the tahor to eat from him, even though he's touching, and he's also going to become tameh. There's no problem. So the Torah teaches us hech tameh shelicha gabe tahor hatam hacha lo techul. He says, just like over there, I did permit it for you. Here, it's not going to be permitted for you. Meaning, it was especially moved by Bechor Balmum that you're allowed to eat it betum'ah. Whether you are tameh and he's taor or he's taor, doesn't matter. But over by us, you're not allowed to eat it betum'ah. Yeah, maaser sheni, you're not allowed to eat it betum'ah. Umenalan devar pidyahu. So how do you know you could redeem the maaser sheni that became tameh, right? Even in Yerushalayim. So the Amar Rabbi Lazar says Rabbi Lazar, Minal Maaser Sheni shebodin oto afilu b'Yerushalayim, Tamul Lomar, ki lo tuchal seeto ve'en seet el achila shenemar, Meaning like this. We know, right, that there's such a thing as that if sometimes things become tameh, you have to burn it. So for example, truma sheniyat tameh. Ronen, מה אתה עושה? You burn it. Yeah? Okay. No, I'm just trying to make sure that you're not asking ChatGPT. Yeah? So he says like this, right? So he comes and he says, yeah? Yeah? So he says like this. He says, right, the person just has to remember as follows. Yeah? Trumada comes tameh, he has to what? He has to burn it. Here by Maaser Sheni, if he brought it all the way to Yerushalayim and then it became tameh, what does he have to do? He has to redeem it. How do we know? No, he has to redeem it. He redeems it with money, and then the next thing is going to become Maaser Sheni. This is already tameh. So now he's going to make something else into Maaser Sheni. So the question is, how do we know that he needs redemption? So he says it's a pasuk. The pasuk says, "Ki lo tuchal se'eto v'natata b'kesef." So en se'et el achila. Because it says, "Vayisa masat right? Vayisa masot mit panav." Yosef comes and he took the manot and he sent them with the brothers. So se'et is lashon achila. It says, "Ki lo tuchal se'eto," that he cannot eat it. So therefore, from here we learn that you could actually redeem Maaser Sheni even in Yerushalayim and eat it. So how do you know that? Again, this was talking about tameh. So one more time, Maaser Sheni tameh betoch Yerushalayim, you're allowed to redeem it. Where do they learn it from? Ki lo tuchal sedo. What happens if it's one step outside of Yerushalayim? פסיעה אחת חוץ לירושלים. האם מותר לפדות מעשר שני? So he says this, אמר מניין למעשר שני טהור, שפודין אותו אפילו פסיעה אחת חוץ לחומה, שנאמר כי לא תוכל שאתו, the same pasuk. Right? I mean, anytime that you have tzorech, even if it's going to be 1 foot outside, you could do it. Now here it's even tahor. Right? Because when you're taking off the bikuni, when you're taking off Maaser Sheni, it's on something tahor, not on something tameh. You know what the Maaser Sheni is again? 10%. You already gave 10% to the Levi. You already gave the Truma Gdolah to the Levi. Now all of a sudden you take off Maaser Sheni. Now you took off fruits and vegetables. You're not going to take it to Yerushalayim. Until you take it to Yerushalayim, it's going to get ruined. So what do? You redeem it. What happens if you were actually going to take the vegetables to Yerushalayim? You're going to take the fruits. Exactly. You buy it over there. What happens though? You're going to take it to Jerusalem. It's mamash right before the Chagim. You're going to go to Jerusalem anyway. You take everything with you. All of a sudden you're one step, right? You just came from Ben Gurion. You're coming right towards Yerushalayim, right before the thing of welcome to Jerusalem, where there's walls, right? What do? You come and say, you know what? I want to redeem it. Can you redeem it? So he says, yes. Where do you learn it from? Ki lo tuchal seto. That's what. Again, it's tahor here. The other case we were talking about when it was tameh, and it was talking about inside Jerusalem. Here we're talking about tahor. Tahor, ki lo tuchal seto, that you cannot eat it, because the word se'et, even though se'et usually means carrying it, right? So he says, se'et in the first one was, ki lo tuchal seto, that you cannot eat it. Right, so therefore, Maaser Sheni tameh you cannot eat. So the first time around, when it says ki lo tuchal seto, the fact that you cannot eat it bitumah, so therefore you're allowed to redeem it, even though it's inside Yerushalayim. The second time, ki lo tuchal seto is kipshuto, you're not allowed to carry it, meaning that you're not able to carry it. So as long as you have even if you're going to be one step outside Yerushalayim, but you just can't carry it, so you could redeem it outside of Yerushalayim and then just take the money in Jerusalem and just take it there. Okay, so ask the Gemara, 1 second. How do you use both? One more time, we're using the same pasuk for two things. The first one was Rabbi Elazar. What was Rabbi Elazar? Maaser Sheni tameh inside Yerushalayim. Then we had Rav Bevai in the name of Rav Asi. They're Maaser Sheni tahor, one step out of Jerusalem. How are you using the same pasuk? And each one we use laset in a different terminology. One of them laset was food, and one of them laset was to carry, which is literally. So it says we need it for Rabbi Elazar. So it says the Gemara, if so, leimarka, the pasuk should have said lo tuchal leochlo. Why didn't it say pasuk in the pasuk mefurash? You can't eat it. Ki lo tuchal leochlo. So he says maiseto. What does it mean seto? Right, meaning that at the end of the day, if it was really meant bemet leechol to eat it, say to eat it. Why did it say seto? So that's what he's saying. It's much more pashut, like I'm saying it, that it's not actually food. So says the Gemara, ve'ema kulo lehachi udata. Huh? Yeah. So he says, ve'ema kulo lehachi udata. He says maybe the word seto is coming to teach you the din of Ravasi, just like we learned from the Pashup Pshat. So he says, אם כן, אפסול להם הכלל לא תוכל ליטלו. מה יעשה איתו? שמע מן התרתי. Meaning this. When you want to come and use the terminology of eating, how do you say it in Hebrew? Lechol. Very good. If I want to come and I want to use the terminology to carry something or to take something, what do I say? Litelo. Litoloto. Netilat lulav. Right? Lakachat. Notel. Right? Notel adam reshut. Right? Notel. No. Why didn't it say litelo? Why did it use the terminology se'eto? So he says se'eto is coming to teach you the two halachot. Meaning, I wanted to say that there's a pshuto of the pasuk. He says, no, the fact that it used se'eto, right? Yeah, that's why I'm saying it. Fine. Okay. Next. Yativ Rav Chanina, Rav Oshaya, V'kami Baile. So they asked the question of Petra Yerushalayim, what's about on the entrance of Yerushalayim? Can you still redeem it or not? Because we spoke about 1 foot outside of Yerushalayim. Now we're talking about the entrance. So Pshita, Huba Chutz V'asol Bifnim, Kaltul Mechitzot. If he's outside of Yerushalayim and the produce is on the inside, that's it. The Mechitzot already have them on the inside. But what happens if he's on the inside and the fruits are on the outside? What's halacha? So Tana Lehu, so they taught, Ha'u Sabba. Yeah, there was Ha'u Sabba, right? With Shimon, with the very Shimon Bar Yochai. Kirchak mimecha makom. What does that mean? Kirchak mimecha makom. He says mimuluacha, from your miluim. What does that mean? Mimecha, right? Elmaleh. What does that mean? He comes and he says you and everything that's with it. So therefore, the masav adam is chelek mimiluot, or part of him. So therefore, it's part of you. So if it's going to be part of you, so he says the same thing. Yeah. So therefore, you can't redeem it anymore because you're already inside. So by Rav Papa asks, okay, fine. What happens if I have it on a reed? I have it on a pole. I'm not carrying it because if you're carrying it, it's part of you. But what happens if I have it on a pole? So he says, Teku. We don't have an answer. Yeah? Very good. Next. Amar Ravasi Rabbi Yochanan says Ravasi Rabbi Yochanan. Says Sheni. Mematay chayvim alav. Maser Sheni, when are you going to be chayav on them? Shirap penei choma. Right? Once you're going to see the choma. My time, what's reasoning that Makkot the pasuk says לפני השם לוקח תאכלנו לא וכתיב ונצאת לא תאכל לאכול בשעריך כל אחד every time that you read it לא לפני השם לוקח תאכלנו you say לא תאכל לאכול בשעריך לכל אחד ולא קרבים לפני השם לוקח תאכלנו לא קרבים לא תאכל לאכול בשעריך, which means as long as the Maaser Sheni do not go inside of the Yerushalayim, so therefore there's still not a mitzvah of eating it. So as long as there's no mitzvah of eating it, so there's no problem. But the second that it went inside, now I'm not allowed to eat it anymore because now it's Maaser Sheni. So for the second the Maaser Sheni goes inside, now I have a problem. I have to eat it inside of Jerusalem. As long as it's outside, I could redeem it and I could eat something else. I could just buy something else. So he says, so we're going to ask the following question. Imagine a Kohen has in his hands a te'ena of tevel. And he says, te'ena zu tumrumata. And this is te'ena beukza. Maaser Rishon bitzuna, maaser sheni daruma, vehi shnat maaser sheni, vehu b'Yerushalayim. Imagine like this. Remember that the way to take off Trumot Masrot is you have the fruit, and you're going to say the Truma is going to be on this part of the fruit, and the Maser is going to be on this part of the fruit. And then you cut off part of the fruit, and you put it on the side, and now you have that the fruit is kosher. Right? That's how you take off Trumot Masrot in Israel until today. Okay? So he comes and he says this. Imagine a Kohen comes, he has Tevel. Tevel means untied produce. You didn't take off Trumot Masrot. And what is it? It's a fig. So he comes and he says, by the oketz, that's a truma. The Maaser Rishon is on the northern part of the fruit. Maaser Sheni is on the southern part of the fruit. Now, it's a year of Maaser Sheni, and he's inside Yerushalayim. Or it's a year of Maaser Ani, and he said Maaser Ani is going to be in the south. The Hubi Gvulin, he's outside of Jerusalem. Achla, now he comes and he eats it. Loke achat. He's going to be loke 1 lashes. Why? Because the maaser of tavul and trumat maaser and everything, he's eating tevel. But now if a zar comes and eats it, he's going to get 2 lashes. Sheilu batchila achala eno lokah achad. Because even if he ate it at the beginning, he's only going to be chayav once, right? So he says it comes out that now he gets 2. Number 1 on the truma, which is by the tzad oketz, and number 2 on tevel. He ate tevel. Meaning like this: the stranger, tevel is untied produce. Tevel is זאת אומרת שלא לקחו ממנו תרומות ומעשרות. זה נקרא tevel. Okay, so you've got a te'ena, no trumot umasot were taken off. You come and you say the truma. Remember, how do you take off trumot umasot? The first thing what you take off is what? Truma gedolah. Where truma gedolah goes to the kohen. After the truma gedolah, you take off maaser rishon. The truma gedolah is nothing. The truma gedolah is like 150th or 125th. It's nothing, right? 100%, exactly. You give him the. You're giving exactly. Next, right? What do you do? 10%. Who does the 10% go to? The Levi. The Levi gets 10%. After the 10% of the Levi separates 10%, which is called Maaser Mina Maaser or Trumat Maaser, and that 10% of his 10% goes to the Kohen. That's called Trumat Maaser or Maaser Mina Maaser. Again, it goes to the Kohen. Then what you do is you have another 10%, which is only going to be 9 now, because the first time you took off 10. So now you're only left with 90. If you're left with 90, the second 10% is only going to be 9. So now what happens is you're going to take a second 10%. So on years 1, 2, 4, 5, it's Maser Sheni. And in years 3 and 6, it's Maser Ani. And in year 7, it's Hefker. It's Shemitah. Yeah, very good. Trick question. Fine. So now what happens is as follows, right? You come, right? And you are a Zar. You're a stranger. You're not a Kohen. And what happened? You ate it. You ate this te'ena. So if you're a zar, already before doing anything, you already get one set of lashes because you ate tevel. Now, if the Kohen came and he said that the truma is going to be on the oketz, and now you ate this fruit, so now you're going to be over and on too, because you also ate truma. You didn't only eat tevel, you ate. So therefore, you get 2 lashes, and the Kohen, if he eats it, only gets 1 lashes. Because he's allowed to eat the truma, but he wasn't allowed to eat the what's it called? The tevel. So therefore, since he only read it, that this is going to be the tevel, but he didn't actually separate it, he's eating tevel. So therefore, it's going to be a problem. Okay? Until here.